Welcome to the Gold Podcast, news and commentary from Gun Owners Action League, your leading voice for the Massachusetts gun owner.
I'm Jeff, across the table from Garrett.
What's up, man?
Back in studio, I guess.
It's been a while, I think, since we just did an Us episode because everything that's been going on.
And still going on.
And still going on, exactly. Everything with the referendum, the law passing, all of that nonsense.
Shenanigans at events.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. And here we are. It's September, getting into the fall, which means deer season's coming up.
Yeah, so
Good times.
So as we're recording this, this episode's going to release at the end of, last week of September. Youth Deer Hunt Day is this Saturday. September 28th, 2024. Youth Deer Hunt Day.
The Utes.
And then just a reminder on the dates, the paraplegic hunt is October 31st to November 2nd. Mm-hmm. Archery season for all zones, October 7th to November 30th. Shotgun season, December 2nd to December 14th. So not until December do you get to go out there blasting away. And then primitives to close out the year, December 16th through December 31st.
Right up to New Year's Eve. And as I understand it, and this is a little bit unusual, they've expanded some of the zones that have surplus antlerless deer permits this year.
Yeah, so the information came out from Mass Fish Wildlife. As of Tuesday, September 24th, surplus antlerless deer permits for zones 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 will go on sale at 9 a.m. Zone 9 permits are first come, first serve and limited to 1 permit per day. Zones 10, 11, 13, and 14 are available throughout the season with no daily or season purchase limits. Wednesday, September 25th, a limited number of surplus antlerless permits for zones 3, 7, 8, and 12 will go on sale at 9 a.m. First come, first serve, and are expected to sell out very quickly. Use Mass Fish Hunt to buy online for the best chance of securing a limited antlerless deer permit.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking on, and I'm on Mass Fish Hunt, and I log in and I'm looking at my account.
Yep.
I already grabbed some antlerless tags for zone 10.
Nice.
Does be on the lookout. But looking at for the other surplus zones, the ones that are going to be limited.
Yeah.
So zone 9 is up, and as of this recording, it says there are 2,030 available.
What's zone 8 look like?
They have
honestly, zone 8's usually, tomorrow will be...
zone 8 will be up tomorrow morning.
So usually zone 8 is a crapshoot. There's usually about a 3 in 4 chance of getting one. But this year they have... surplus. I don't know how many surplus. Could be 3. I guess
could be a few, could be a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, showing a little over 2,000 available for zone 9 right now as of this recording.
Right on.
So yeah, snatch them up.
Go get you some permit. Goal news, Goals Lucky 20 raffle. We got another raffle going, just kicked off today. This one is going to draw on December the 19th, 2024 at the Goal office. Ticket prices, pretty typical. It's 1 for $10, 3 for $20, 10 for $50, and 25 for $100. Now, obviously, we do this kind of thing once or twice a year. This time is kind of a special deal because we've got lawsuits pending. We have litigation, and litigation is not cheap. So we can really use the help. And in exchange, you get the chance to win some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I was talking with Jim. He said we've had so much support with everything that's going on that a lot of firearms were donated for raffles, for auctions. So he said that this is the first time they've run the Lucky 20 raffle where Goal itself did not have to purchase a single firearm.
That's great.
So all of the proceeds from this raffle are going to Goal. They're going to the war chest, and they're going to be put, as we were saying at the show over the weekend, your dollars stay in Massachusetts and they fight Massachusetts problems.
Gotta love it.
But there's everything on the list. So there's 1911s. There's the Remington 870 shotgun, which is, if you're going to own one, I think that's the one to own.
Well, yeah.
P365 XL pistol. There's a Ruger GP 100 revolver. There's a Savage 12 gauge shotgun, Mossberg MC2C pistol.
Yeah.
There's rifles in 6.5 Creedmoor. There's other 9mm pistols. There's
Garand. That's what I like. Third from the bottom there. There's actually a CMP M1. People say Garand, but his name was Garand. Anyway, that's in there. from the CMP, so it's obviously not going to be in, mint condition.
Yeah,
It's going to be field condition, but still, it's a CMP rifle. Get your hands on that
Yeah.
one.
Unfortunately, I mean, if it was wrapped in Cosmolean paper, we could probably auction it off for something really good. But
oh yeah,
if you've never seen the CMP program.
So the CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, is actually congressionally chartered that allows the government to sell surplus firearms to the public. Go figure, right? The big one is the M1. They also do 1911s. Unfortunately, we can't get them here because of the stupid transfer regulations on pistols. But take a second and explain to folks what the different grades are for these rifles.
So CMP, when they send out, various grades of M1. So there's a rack grade, which is, fair, air condition.
Probably working.
Cosmetic damage. It's been rebuilt a bunch of times, probably has, mix and match parts, but still an M1. And then there's field grade, which is like fair to good. Service grade, which is good to very good. And then the CMP special, which is like excellent, like beautiful condition.
That's collector level stuff that you buy it and you put in your gun safe.
And price adjusts accordingly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right.
And if you've ever shot 30-06, so out of like a normal synthetic stocked rifle, 30-06 of the caliber has a pretty sizable wallop.
Yep.
But
if you're dealing with a rifle, it weighs how many pounds?
On an M1 with that weight and that wood furniture and the size of it, it actually shoots 30-06 relatively softly.
That's right.
It is a manageable firearm to shoot.
Well, it is the greatest battle implement ever devised, right? According to George Patton. But you can get some really cool surplus rifles from the government. Talk about a buyback. So go on goal.org, get your Lucky 20 raffle tickets. As always, your chances of winning depend on how many people get in the raffle. And once again, they can't send you, because of rules and laws and things surrounding these things, they can't mail you raffle ticket stubs. You can enter the raffle, online or through various means. Go on goal.org and check out how to do that.
Fabulous firearms in the Lucky 20 raffle this year. So definitely go and grab your tickets. And best of luck to everybody.
We did the goal fundraising dinner was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now?
Almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a good time. So it was a Thursday night at Cyprian Keys, a golf club that we do a lot of events at, like the fashion show and annual meetings and so forth.
What a setup.
Stuff there. Yeah,
fabulous
great
people.
Room. They've been really good to us. Overall, that fundraising dinner was a big hit. We had a great turnout.
Great evening. Raised a bunch of money.
Raised a pile of money for the cause, which again is going to go to fund the litigation efforts.
Goes right to the organization and the membership.
Yep, it was fabulous. I
don't want to blow up the spot and say what was auctioned off, but let's just say that the guy who did the auction was a former president of Gun Owners Action League.
And he did a bang-up job.
Did a fabulous job. And the very first item that they auctioned off had just the coolest story. It was the coolest item. It had the coolest
story. Yes.
And two guys got in just an outright bidding war. It raised in the thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And I've never seen someone more happy to walk out with an auction item, and I don't think there was anybody in that room who wasn't jealous.
That was awesome. It was great to watch. It was great to see too, because they were like totally into it, and they're like, you know what, this is a good cause.
Going back and forth and back and forth.
that was great.
And then Gold got fantastic checks donated from here, there, and everywhere else. It was a fantastic time. It was
good time. And of course, the reason that we were there is to raise money for the membership and for the litigation efforts, and I think we carried that off nicely.
That was a good chunk.
Very, very nicely done. So we do have another fundraising event coming up. We're going to meet at Marlboro Fish and Game Saturday, October the 26th. So check out goal.org. This one is going to be kind of a different format, raffles, meet and greet, hang out and everything. There's going to be a food truck there, so it's not like a sit-down dinner.
Raffles. There's going to be stuff for the auction. Yeah, it'll be the food truck. So a little, much more casual.
More casual, a little bit more like
the big sit down dinners are great for what, every once in a while, but
sure.
You also want to have stuff where you don't have to make this huge commitment, either financially just to go.
Exactly. Exactly. I think tickets for this one are like $20.
Yeah. And it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. So that's Marlboro Fish and Game, October the 26th, which is a Saturday. I'm, looking forward to going to that. So, ongoing is the petition effort.
And they are doing just an unbelievable job.
So as an outsider, I'm not involved in the process at all, except for the fact that we've run like a couple of signing events at Mansfield. I've collected signatures, like at the gun show with you at Mansfield and so forth, but I'm not like involved in the nuts and bolts,
in the minutia.
Yeah, right. So Toby obviously is one of the big cheeses over there. There's a number of folks who are working this behind the scenes, including people who are like experts in this kind of thing. I mean, the level of organization was actually, as I hear details, like, wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Oh, it's like, especially as fast as they
this
put it
all
together.
through. Yeah, it's amazing. From the time that we filed the initial petition, we got it back. It's like immediately hit the ground running within days. There are, signature collectors all across the state, and they have like this hierarchical county town organization. They have people running all over the state to get signatures where they need to be because, as if you don't have to be in the location that you live in order to sign the petition. You can sign it anywhere. So if, I live in New Bedford, but I happen to be in Pittsfield and I signed a petition, that petition's got to make its way all the way back to New Bedford.
Yeah. So for the people
there's a
who
system in place for doing that.
Yeah. So for the people who are out there, and my heart goes out to all the people that have signed the petition. It's an absolutely wonderful thing to see everybody, coming and participating and making their voice heard. The amount of effort that goes into making this petition happen the way it's been happening is, and this is the story as I've gotten it, because I'm not spearheading this effort myself either. But not only do they establish a website, where you can see all these different places to sign.
Yep.
Those petitions, there are groups for each county and each district, each area. Yeah. And they, all these petitions get collected and they get funneled to the next person up the chain. And then they get funneled up to the next person up the chain. And then all the heads for all the different counties get together, meet up, and they're swapping. And here's all the stuff for your area. Here's all the stuff for your area. And then everything goes out. All of those sheets have to go to their individual town halls to get certified by the town.
Right. They get certified at the town, and then the town turns them back into the coalition.
Yes.
And then the coalition has to get them up.
So then someone has to go back to the town hall, collect all of those petitions, reorganize everything, get it to another central collection point, and then it gets turned into the state.
And they have to keep track of all of these thousands of petition sheets so that none of them get lost or misplaced.
Oh, yeah. This isn't
when you walk up to your gun store and you sign the petition, you are doing excellent work. But
this isn't like a
whole system behind it.
Yeah, this isn't a federal election where you just dump a piece of paper in a mailbox.
Put a stack of them in a mailbox. It's I can't give enough kudos to the people that are doing this.
It's very reminiscent from a historical standpoint of the old call trees when you look at, especially the events surrounding Lexington and Concord, April 19th, 1775, and how they structured this person rides from here to there and notifies people along this way, and then they branch out, and then they do this.
And that person notifies those people, and then those people notify their people.
Signals and convening. It
kind of has that vibe about it. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is a very inspiring thing to watch all of these people dedicate so much time and energy and effort. The numbers, really well over halfway from the last I heard.
Yeah.
Doing just incredible.
Yeah.
But we need to keep the momentum. That needs to keep going. The more signatures you have, the more better.
Right. The last time we were on this, we had Toby on, and he said that he would love to, fire for effect and just go up there with so many overwhelming number of signatures. We're on our way. We still all got to get out there. We've got a couple weeks left.
So you and I both were at the Marlboro Gun Show this weekend.
Yes, well, we were.
Let's put a pin in that because there was a little bit of controversy.
The day before the Marlboro Gun Show.
Up
in Springfield, something happened.
At the Big E.
At the Big E. If you're involved enough to listen to this podcast, the odds are pretty good you heard about what happened at the Big E on Friday, where Her Holiness the Governor Maura Healey went down to
grace the peasantry with with an appearance.
Right. She did her let 'em eat cake moment at the Big E, did some walking around and pressing the flesh and so forth, and apparently didn't like too much that petition people were hanging around and pointing out what a horrible person she is on the Second Amendment.
How dare anybody? How dare anybody not be pleased with her performance as governor? And to speak that publicly.
How dare they? How dare they?
Crushed.
So, long story, slightly less long. I don't know all of the details, but apparently the signature collectors were politely asked to vacate the Big E premises while Her Holiness was gracing everybody with her presence. Now, apparently she didn't like being followed around with 2A signs. I say too bad. She's a public figure. We have the right not to be civil to our public, to our elected officials. But there is a fabulous picture in the Western Mass News of Maura Healey smiling for the cameras with a Protect Your 2A sign hanging out right over her head in the background. It's fabulous.
Well, so that was the big controversy, the Big E. Much appreciated to the folks that were out there collecting signatures.
They were allowed to go back, by the way. So yeah.
My heart, my from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it.
From all the way down in the knuckles, right?
But anyway, so you and I were at the Marlboro Gun Show on Saturday. I went back on Sunday with Jim and Holly and Mike Harris.
Yep.
But it was you, me, and then John for the afternoon for the Saturday show.
Yeah, so we had our little table set up in the back, right? And right next to us was the table for the Civil Rights Coalition, and they were collecting signatures. And I have to say, they were cranking people out all day.
Oh, constant.
It was a steady stream of people walking up saying, where can I sign? Where do I put a stop to this nonsense? And that's fabulous. It's a great thing.
Yeah, they had wonderful signs. And then, of course, you can't miss Wayne Adams.
Right. Right. He is an imposing figure, that guy. He's
and just genuinely nicest guy to hang out with.
He's fantastic.
From Worcester County League of Sportsmen, the number I heard from them at the end of the event was they collected about 1,000 signatures.
That's great.
Just at the Marlboro Gun Show in 2 days.
That's awesome. Given gun show attendance, which actually was pretty good. I was overall I thought the attendance was
right. And we had people stop by. We had a ton of people sign up for Goal. People were stopping by with donations and
people were walking by handing us checks. Fight the fight, keep this going.
Yeah, but everybody got to stop by and say, kind of throw their 2 cents in and
oh yeah,
and kind of vent it out. And it's
people,
like you get that you get to take kind of the temperature of the gun owning public.
Yeah. And everybody, everybody has like their grievance to air out, and that's, everybody has their thing. And that's the thing about this law is that it pisses everybody off.
And we had people come up and say, I didn't really care about that, but this really bothered me.
Yeah.
And then someone would come up and say, well, that thing that bothered the first guy didn't really matter to me much. But this, so.
Even people were,
fantastic time.
But the process was terrible. So
we kept getting, so a lot of people would come up and ask questions.
Yes.
What about this? What about that? In relating to the new law. And there were 2 that really kind of kept coming up pretty frequently. So I talked to Mike and I was like, all right, I want to make sure we publish on the podcast as well.
Yep.
The information is on Goal's website, www.goal.org.
The summaries are there. All of this stuff is there.
The information is there, but these were, 2 things we were specifically asked about pretty consistently over 2 days.
Yeah.
First being the grandfathering dates. So under the new legislation, however it ends up going into effect, the new grandfathering dates as proposed by Chapter 135. So the September 1994 date is all the pre-ban stuff.
Pre-ban, yeah. The pre-federal assault weapons ban stuff.
Right. So all of that stuff, if you have that pre-1993, assalamu alaikum, have a blast.
If you have that stuff legally possessed now, you're good to go.
Keep it, you're fine.
Okay.
The July 2016 date is the effective grandfathering date for all the quote-unquote copies and duplicates that people
Maura
were buying
Healey
up until that point. Then Maura Healey decided
She just
to
waved her hand and decided we're all illegal.
via op-ed in the Boston Globe.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't aware that that's how you create law, but apparently that's how she created law.
Well, the Attorney General doesn't create law anyway, but that's a whole different discussion.
That Constitution never stopped him before. The August 1st date of this year is the grandfathering date for anything that is currently owned and possessed in Massachusetts that would now be caught up under the new features test.
Under the new assault,
single feature add-on test.
Firearms. Yeah. Right.
So that's the interpretation we have for the grandfathering dates.
At the moment.
September 94 is all the pre-ban stuff, the high cap mags. That's the September 1994 date. July 2016, copies and duplicates. August 1st, 2024, anything that was otherwise fine, but now would be caught up under the new features test.
So now, if you have standard or large capacity magazines, you can keep them, but you can't carry them.
Yep. So that was the other question we got is what, I have these magazines. What do I do with them? What can I do with them?
Yeah.
So if you have that magazine at home, that pre-1993,
my
standard, appropriate
round Beretta, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Yep. You may possess it. You may own it. You may not carry it. And if you wish to transport it to the range, it must be unloaded and locked in a container for transport.
Yeah. Essentially, for the transportation
box
purposes
with a spring in it has to be locked up in a box.
So for transportation purposes, you can kind of almost just treat it like a firearm.
Pretty much.
Unloaded in a locked container. You not available for concealed carry. Certainly something that, I think a bunch of people are looking at challenging from a legal standpoint. If I'm allowed to keep it, use it, why can't I keep it and use it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just one of about 1.5 million levels of crap in this thing. It's so stupid. Stupid. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, and then the current understanding, go to gold.org and get the talking points, the summaries from the website for everything else.
And then lastly, the last big question we kept getting was what exactly is going to happen with the petition one way or the other.
Yep.
So, certainly there are some naysayers that say, why bother with this?
Why are we doing this? We're putting, we're damaging the lawsuits. It's not going to work anyway. It's yada, yada.
Yeah.
People sound like Eeyore to me. Oh, it's not going to work.
Well,
it's not going to work.
And hey, all right. It's a fair question to say, all right, what is the outcome? Yes. So let's say, for example, you get the requisite number of signatures, it goes to the vote, and we lose. Well, you're in the same boat you're in now anyway.
Mm-hmm. Nothing changes.
The petition does not remove the law from the books. It doesn't cancel the law.
That's correct.
What it says is, provided the signatures are there, that this is now suspended and it's unenforceable until it goes to that vote of the people. Then the people can vote it in. For the folks that say, well, then that's the end of the story. No, because you can't vote away your civil rights.
Right.
So that doesn't change anything.
A certain amount of maneuvering room that you get by pausing this. You know, retailers get some time to maneuver. The training stuff gets some, which we'll have more to say on momentarily. But, all of the really horrible provisions of this stupid law get put on hold for a while until people can figure out what in the hell they all actually mean.
Yes. And the other critique that you hear is that it somehow affects the litigation efforts.
Yeah.
And it is not, it's ultimately not true. And I don't mean it in like a flip way to go, well, that's not true. But, it doesn't affect the legal side of things. So you're still able to pursue the lawsuits. You're still able to push everything through. And like you said, it gives you a great opportunity. You have 18 months to 2 years until that election to continue those legal efforts, to start picking apart the bill and to, get as much done as you can while the state can't enforce it against you. So other than saying, it's a lot of effort that might not bear fruit in the way some people would want. Okay, I understand that point, but at the end of the day, all I'm asking for you is to put your name on a piece of paper.
Exactly.
I'm not asking you to take up arms and march the green. And
that's later.
This is find a place that's local to you, go to your local gun shop, throw them some business because you should support local firearm business.
And while you're there,
go to your range, and while you're there,
on the piece of paper.
This is your opportunity to say to the state in no uncertain terms, and not just in an election where you vote for a representative, I think this law is trash.
Exactly. Exactly.
I didn't get at the gun show, but I have heard this as someone said, well, I don't want to be on a list.
It's like, bro, let me pull out my LTC and shit, you know. Come on,
when you're filling in
on a freaking list.
When you're filling in your PIN number on your EFA 10, let me know about those lists that you don't want to be on.
The government doesn't know who I am. But I got a driver's license and an LTC and everything. All right. So anyway,
Marlboro Gun Show was great. Had a great time. Met a ton of awesome people. Met Jeff from MFS. We've mentioned him on the show before.
Yep.
He was the guy that sent that clip of Maura Healey.
Yeah.
Got to hang out with him. Tons of people who were really, happy about Gun Owners Action League, that somebody's doing, not only doing something, but spearheading the effort between all the other things.
I am once again reminded that 2A people are generally pretty cool people.
Yeah. And talking to some of the younger folks at the show, some of the younger guys and younger ladies, and saying, hey,
I just got my LTC last week. What the hell is all this about? Yeah.
Or telling them, hey, look around you. Like, this is a long-term generational fight. Mm-hmm. And, hey, to you guys that are in your early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, start getting involved now. Get involved at your club. Get involved in this kind of stuff, because this is not a fight that's over in next year or 5 years or in 10 years. This path to maintaining a Second Amendment is, 250 years didn't happen with one group of really determined people.
Right. That's right.
It's keeping that alive. So trying to get we always have to win. That's bring more people in and say, hey, freedom doesn't come without effort.
So we do have a little bit of breaking news regarding all this stuff. Chapter 135, suddenly and expected by nobody, because they didn't bother to let anybody know, but Chapter 135 has already been amended. Yes. So the law that just passed, that Michael Day stood up on his 2 little feet and said, this is constitutional challenge proof. This is what the people want, is actually bomb proof. We spent, 2 years crafting this masterpiece of jurisprudence, and here we go. It's already been amended because it is unenforceable as it stands. So on September the 16th, chapter 206 of the laws of 2024 passed the legislature. It was mainly a budget and appropriations bill, as I understand it.
Yeah, and they just casually threw in some other things on the end.
In among the 9,277 words of this bill, way down in section like 50 something, they threw a sentence or two in there that says, oh, by the way, for Chapter 135, the training requirements are going to be suspended for 18 months. Or actually, the effective date of the training requirements is going to be 18 months after the passage of this law. So they just threw that. They didn't call goal. They didn't talk to Jim. They didn't talk to anybody in the 2A community to talk about ramifications or what any of this actually might mean. They just said, just throw that in there. Maybe nobody will notice.
Well, what's interesting is, these 2 lines said, section 38 and 74 of Chapter 135 are not going to get implemented for 18 months. And then you got to go, then you got to go to 135 and look at section 38 and 74. And 38 and 74 say replace this section with this section, and you're down the rabbit hole.
Self-referential nonsense. So usually,
Section 38 is all the law. First of all, Section 38 contains the part of the law that says law enforcement has to get trained in all the new laws.
Yeah,
so they don't have to understand the new laws for 18 months.
Suspended.
But there was also mention of training for the new category of ammunition dealers.
Right.
That is now suspended for 18 months. So law enforcement doesn't have to know anything about the new outlaws for a year and a half. It's essentially until what would be a petition vote.
And then
ironically enough.
Section 74.
Section 74 is all new. All of the new training requirements for the FID and the LTC.
De-escalation training, the suicide awareness, all that same stuff that they tried to throw in there. So let's be clear. This doesn't suspend the law. It means that the people who would have had to been trained on the law don't have to be trained for 18 months. So what does that mean? Does that mean that even though the provisions of the law are still intact and enforceable, the cops, et cetera, don't actually have to know anything about it?
Yeah. So I think
that's what it seems to mean.
I think if you asked the state to explain what they just did, is they would say, well, we've seen that, there's going to be some hurdles and hiccups and things we got to get in line. So yeah, we're going to push this out. And we're offering that as a gesture of faith to the Second Amendment community.
Yeah, that's baloney. They did it in response to Gold's federal lawsuit.
You better hope you're upwind of that sandwich when they serve that to you.
Yeah. My boots are getting dirty. That was definitely in response to the federal lawsuit that's coming down, because the law as written blatantly removes people's rights because it makes training inaccessible, and you can't get a license without training. So, I mean, it's a blatant constitutional issue. And finally they realize that, or somebody up at the State House says, this bomb-proof piece of legislation that Michael Day wrote, this masterpiece, actually, it's not so much of a masterpiece, and this is unenforceable. So we better throw something in the budget bill.
Yep. So this is the quote as issued by Jim Wallace, Executive Director of Gun Owners Action League. Quote, "This amendment to the new law is very telling of how Chapter 135 was never properly vetted by the public, the legislature, and the state agencies tasked with enforcing this new law. Not too long ago, Chairman Day arrogantly stood in front of a press conference and bragged about how this law could meet any constitutional challenge. If that was true, then why the delays?"
That kind of says it all to me.
Pressing question.
Yeah.
Now, Jim will tell you he's not a legislator and he's not a legal scholar or anything else. How does he see through this? But the question is this a win for us or no?
So the way that I see it, it's a marginal win for like LTC training, for example, because instructors and people who want to get their LTCs can continue on the way that they are, for the time being, right? If you are an instructor and you are worried about scheduling classes, it does not appear that you need to worry about that. Go ahead and schedule your classes and have them. And, it appears that since the training requirements are unenforceable, then the state, it would appear to me that the certificate and everything else that goes along with that is also suspended. But I can't make that, I can't make that judgment based on what this thing said, right? Because one of the new things was also that that the state was going to issue certificates instead of the individual instructors. And I don't know if that was also rolled up into this. But the consensus seems to be that you continue the way that you are for the moment. The problem, like we kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, is that the training that's required for the state agencies, cops, et cetera, is also apparently suspended. So they're not going to know how to enforce the law that is going to, barring the petition, et cetera. There are 1.5 million other provisions of that law that are going to go into effect on October 23rd, but the police aren't going to be trained on it for 1.5 years. So what does that mean? What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. That was not like a rhetorical thing. I actually don't know what the hell that means.
Nobody knows what it means. I think the only benefit out of this whole thing is it's not putting out of business people who are making their livelihood on teaching classes.
Right. Right.
And outside of that,
nominally or marginally at least allows people to continue taking the classes to obtain their LTCs, which is the important thing.
Outside of that one small benefit as far as like not putting people out of business, I don't know if I would look at this as a win. Partly because, like we've discussed, this whole law was 2 years in the making by all the gun control groups in the world. They never talked to law enforcement. They never discussed it with law enforcement. They didn't know it was coming.
Right.
And the fact that this got snuck through in a budget bill that nobody heard about in a way that nobody heard about until it was already slammed through the legislature.
Yeah.
I still haven't heard word from Massachusetts State Police, whether it's an email from Kristen or an email from whoever to say, oh yeah, by the way, here are the adjustments that we're making.
Yeah.
So it says to me that this was also done, not talking to firearms owners, not talking to law enforcement, not talking to anybody that actually has to deal with the repercussions of these laws.
Yeah.
So it's a little to me like
Ivory Tower down in Boston, they just decide what they want to do, and everybody else can pick up the pieces after they blow everything apart.
it's like handing a 14-year-old a bottle of Jack Daniels and the car keys and go, all right, have a good night.
Be responsible now.
The fact that the bill hasn't even been implemented and they already have to amend this should be, if there was any ability for any of our lawmakers to feel shame, this should be one of the most embarrassing things.
They're incapable of introspection.
It's
right.
It's absurd.
Nobody, never mind Michael Day himself. He's not capable of shame. But if anybody up in the State House would take a look at this and go, this is emblematic of what everybody's been saying about this, right? The fact that we had to take this action is proving the point of everybody who said that this was done hastily and without consideration. Maybe, just maybe, we didn't do the right thing here. But nobody's going to say that. They're not capable of saying that.
Michael Day is also the guy that went and said publicly that any police chief who didn't agree with his thing was a gun nut psycho activist.
Yeah, right. Activist chief. Yeah.
I think probably their other thought in this approach would be that this would somehow nullify the lawsuits that are going on, which is not true. The lawsuits are still going to go on because this is still part of the law.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think they probably thought, oh, this will solve all of the problems.
Yeah.
And I think it was also partly, besides their legal risk and how bad they've probably irritated the law enforcement officials who have to deal with this.
One would hope.
This is probably a little bit of also they're hoping it takes the wind out of the sails of people who are fighting this whole legislative thing. Then I'll say, well, we have time and people can still get their licenses and we'll get it all sorted out and it'll be fine.
It'll work itself out sometime in the next year and a half.
I think they looked at it as, wow, a lot of people are very, very pissed. Yeah. We got a very big petition that's coming to remove all of this. We need to pivot here on something.
Yeah.
So deep down, it's like, I think that's probably more what this is. But again, it's an absolutely garbage plan executed to imperfection.
There's no other good way to put that.
So is it a win? I would not go so far as to call it a win because, first of all, it maintains status quo, and status quo is a problem to me to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't consider it a win because it doesn't change the new requirements that are going, and I don't consider it a win because I think it's an end around to dissuade any public pushback and also to limit legal liability, which they're ultimately going to be legally liable for anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't look at it as a win that way. I think it's just their kind of attempt to try to appease the upset plebeians who are making a ruckus with their paperwork and talking to each other.
Maybe somebody with, an actual law degree went, you can't actually do that, right? So there it is. Once again, this was dropped, as we all know, this was dropped in the dead of night into a budget bill without fanfare preamble. It was just dropped in. Nobody talked to anybody. So the pieces, as usual, the ill-considered actions of the state legislature in Massachusetts are going to have to be figured out after the fact. That's how they operate, apparently. They just do whatever the hell they want, and then it's left to other people to pick up the pieces. Yeah. So this may or may not be the end of this. Goal is taking a very close look at what this amendment or what this amendment essentially means for the law and all of its ramifications. So stay tuned. I'm sure that the folks at the office will have more to say about it.
It's no wonder Maura didn't want any Pro 2A things in her photos. She's probably, I would secretly hope that there's a part of her that's sitting at home going, God, what did they do?
What did I sign? I hope so. She was like, it's like, I am not in any way excusing her action because I think she's a terrible governor and a terrible person for doing what she's doing. But
I hope this annoys her.
I hope it does. But politically speaking, she could not have not signed the bill.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
she couldn't have hitched her wagon to a dumber set of horses. Like, she walked in expecting, she's going in expecting Trigger from Lone Ranger, and she's got just this donkey running the show. But yeah.
Yeah. So there it is.
I hope she's equally as annoyed.
I hope so too.
And
she deserves
I secretly hope she goes, maybe we shouldn't have done this, and then finds a way to roll it back. You never know. Someone could always see the light and repent.
Well, so that is the update on the petition, the law, everything kind of as it is, goal as a whole. I'm sure that we will have more to say on all of this stuff. But for now, please, for the love of all that is holy, get out of your house and go down and sign a petition. Not just you, every registered voter in your house, your friends, your family. They don't even have to be gun people. Anybody who respects the process, the way that things are supposed to happen here, should have plenty to say and to be upset about this bill. So, even if you're not a 2A person, you should be outraged at how this was done. So use that when you talk to friends and family. Get them out of the house, get them down, get them to sign the petition. We've got just a couple weeks left. So let's get it done.
Yeah. And you and I will be at Mansfield Fish and Game this coming Sunday. So the episode released on Friday will be there Sunday, 9 a.m. to noon, 1 p.m. I'll probably bring my bow and bust my shoulder up again. 510 East Street, Mansfield, Massachusetts.
Yep, we're behind the public safety complex.
Yeah, so stop by. It's beautiful fall weather. Get out there, get your pumpkin spice, whatever. Get your pumpkin coffee, go to church, come get your pumpkin stuff, come sign the petition, go home and watch some football. It's a great day.
It's a great morning.
So
come on down.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the update. We did have one, before we sign out of here, we did have one piece of national news. It's sometimes hard to remember that there's like a whole country out there outside of Massachusetts.
Nah.
That's going on right now.
If it's not New England, it doesn't count.
So this was brought to my attention by our good friend and colleague Cam Edwards over at Bearing Arms. He published a piece about the Fifth Circuit hearing the arguments over the ban on handgun sales to under 21s. So this is Reese v. ATF. There's a bunch of individual plaintiffs, along with, you know them, you love them, the Firearms Policy Coalition. So they had oral arguments today before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And I am in the process of listening to the recording. I haven't finished it just yet, but some of the bites actually give me a little bit of hope. The Fifth Circuit in general has a history of being sort of friendly to us.
Not terrible.
Not terrible.
I mean, certainly they're not the First Circuit. They're not the Ninth.
Well, yeah, right. It'd be hard to beat.
It's a low bar to get over.
But, a few of the sound bites make me feel like there's a little bit of hope. This is in regards to handgun sales for under 21s. For example, one of the pieces, and this is from FPC, the government lawyer said that there's a consensus that there should be an age restriction, whether 16, 18, 21, right, is what we're deciding here. And the government lawyer pointed to the drinking age of 21, right? You got to be 21 in order to drink. And one of the judges actually pushed back on that and said, well, there's no claim to the constitutional right to drink. So
salient argument.
That's a salient argument. I like to tip him back just as much as the next guy, but the 2A is in fact an enshrined constitutional right. So, things like that were said. Well, I'm not going to cast, not going to read tea leaves and cast stones or anything, but I'm hoping that it comes out in our favor, in which case they'll probably, appeal it up to the Supreme Court, and that'll be up to them to either take it or not and then decide on it. So yeah, we'll see.
I would argue to them it's your civil right, and if you are of age and ability where you can carry a handgun to defend the government from the people, then you are of age and capable of carrying a handgun to defend yourself.
Absolutely. Should be nice and easy. So there's that. I mean, we'll certainly talk about how that case comes out, along with a bunch of other cases that are pending and actually being argued in circuit courts around the country, even as we speak. Obviously, our focus is in our own backyard right now because we got plenty enough going on. But we try to keep abreast of everything.
Yep. Just file a lawsuit. Beware what you wish for.
Just file a lawsuit. Breaking away from the topical stuff. What's going on? What are you doing? What are you listening to? What are you enjoying? What are you consuming? What are you doing with yourself when you're not doing gun stuff?
It's always gun stuff. You know what I did is I recently went through, I got the audiobook version just for, travel.
Yeah.
But the book Common Sense, Thomas Paine.
Oh, yes. Very, very good.
It's not long. It's actually really short.
It's a pamphlet. It was a pamphlet.
It was,
that was
considered a pamphlet at the time. I mean, the audio version is like 2 hours long. But for people who don't know where that book kind of sits in history, it was a book that was put out that was designed to essentially make the argument to the everyday American about why they should support the movement for independence and support the people who were moving away from England.
Yeah.
And it was written in a way, it's kind of a little bit hard to follow because it was written, most people back then
in the patois of the 18th century.
Not only that, but people were used to listening to church sermons. So it's written kind of church sermon-esque, with that kind of tone and tempo. So sometimes it's a little hard to follow, but no, it was probably, one of the most influential books in American history that you've never heard of.
It's sort of like kind of position it in time. It was released in January of 1776, that pivotal year, 1776, when the siege of Boston was going on and things were not looking terribly great right in the beginning of the hostilities. So it was very much a shot in the arm, maybe kind of as much as the crisis was, but it was, it's like a seminal piece of, it's like people have heard of it, but I don't know if many people, it's a thing in abstract, right? It's something that they've heard of and they kind of have an idea what it is, but it's actually worth sitting down and reading it. If you read the paperback version, it's like 40 pages or something like that. It's not long.
It's not a hard, the audiobook has a whole bunch of appendices and other stuff it gets into, but it was the argument being made for the everyday man. Of why self-governance is what we want to do here.
That's right. Good stuff. Good stuff.
What about yourself?
I have been listening to an audiobook called The Dawn of Innovation. So it's not the Forge of Innovation that you recommended to me last year. That was a different book. This one is about the Industrial Revolution. And so I'm, kind of a history nerd. This one covers... It focuses in the area shortly after the Civil War, but it talks about everything from the run up after, from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th century all the way up through. And it's really cool. It covers things like the rise of the railroads and machinery. And it talks about, the Gun Valley in New England with regards to firearms manufacture and Springfield Armory and all of that good stuff. So
yeah, it's like the biggest part of the economy at the time.
Huge. Yeah. Textiles and guns, man. So
that's what New England does.
That's what New England is about. The rise of steam engines, water power, all these, it's like really fascinating stuff. It's called The Dawn of Innovations by Charles Morris. So far, so good. I'm right in the middle of it right now. But
I can't imagine, turning a barrel.
Yeah.
Like boring out a barrel with that kind of precision and accuracy with rifling back then. No power tools, no laser aligned anything.
The invention of deep gun drilling and stuff like that is fascinating.
No CNC machines.
Endlessly fascinating. And folks like Hall and Blanchard and all the people that invented these machines that built the machines, right, that made all of these processes possible. You go from being able to produce a gun stock 2 every 3 days to being able to do 10 in an afternoon. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to me how that took off.
Yeah, and that book, the book you mentioned, Freedom's Forge, that had to do with And if you're looking for a similar line that's just essentially bumped up in history,
Yes.
Freedom's Forge is essentially a book that talks about how World War II was won more by industry than anything else, and how the American industrial machine kind of
focused itself.
on all the different companies that had, mechanical abilities all contributed to the warfare. So it starts off a little like,
I've never heard of him before. I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's
the first
businessman.
First section's a little love lettery to Roosevelt at the time, but
I'm like, hey, that's not good. Don't talk to that. Yeah.
but no, like companies like Singer Sewing Machine going, all right, we're going to stop producing sewing machines. We're going to start producing guns, building tanks and airplanes, and how they,
yeah, that was a really good book. That was kind of an eye opener for me.
It's a great little chunk of history in New England as far as, what firearms meant, what the industry of firearms meant,
all that stuff.
in the Connecticut Valley, out in Worcester, out in Springfield. I mean, Springfield.
That's why, right? Springfield. That's why they call it Gun Valley, man. Connecticut River Valley and the environs. Really cool stuff. So if you're into history, check those out. But that is...
it's good to know where you come from to see where maybe you ought to go.
There you go. There you go.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the Goal Podcast and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Goal Podcast MA, on YouTube at the Goal Podcast, or on Twitter at Goal Update.
To join Goal, and we really, really need your support, visit goal.org and click the join or renew buttons on the top of the homepage.
If you have a topic you think we should cover, if there's something going on in your club or town, or if you have a question for the mailbag, shoot us an email. goalpodcast@goal.org.
The Goal Podcast is a production of Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Goal, its staff, or affiliates.